Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. Title of the show, as you can see right on top, we are right back on that subject, especially what is starting to happen in America right now. You know, a lot of people are going to get their tests. They're going, they call up their doctor, said, yes, I have a fever and a dry cough. And the doctor says, go to the emergency room and get a COVID test, or go somewhere and they send you. And, everybody's saying, oh, well, the COVID test now, they say it's going to be free. The insurance companies are going to cover it. But as you know, we are surrounded by vultures. It is imperative that you understand that. We are surrounded by vultures. And when I say surrounded by vultures, I'm not trying to mince my words. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm just trying to let us know who and what's going on. And it is imperative going forward that we understand it. It is amazing, right? Because I think it was the New York Times today, and I haven't read the article yet. As I was glancing at MSNBC, I noticed that they made mention to something to the effect that, as it turns out, it seems that a lot of people have already started getting their COVID bills. And if they have started getting their COVID bills, it means that this pandemic is starting to have an effect. But anyhow, before we get started into the entire program itself, I want to show you how our commander-in-chief reacted to one of the reporters, because you wonder exactly what is it that these guys are thinking. Let's check this out, and then we'll move on to the program proper. Check it out.
What do you say to Americans who are upset with you over the way you downplayed this crisis over the last couple of months? We have it very much under control in this country. The coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. It's going to disappear. It's like a miracle. It will disappear. At March 4th, we have a very small number of people in this country infected. March 10th, we're prepared. We're doing a great job with it. It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. What do you say to Americans who believe that you got this wrong?
And I do want them to stay calm. And we are doing a great job. If you look at those individual statements, they're all true. Stay calm. It will go away. You know it is going away, and it will go away. And we're going to have a great victory. And it's people like you and CNN that say things like that. It's why people just don't want to listen to CNN anymore. You could ask a normal question. The statements I made are, I want to keep the country calm. I don't want panic in the country. I could cause panic much better than even you. I could do much. I would make you look like a minor league player. But you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to have our country be calm and strong and fight and win. And it will go away. And it is incredible, the job that all of these people are doing, putting them all together, the job that they're doing. I am very proud of the job they're doing, that Mike Pence is doing, that the task force has done, that Honeywell and Procter & Gamble and Mike and all of these people have done. I'm very proud. It's almost a miracle, and it is, the way it's all come together. And instead of asking a nasty, snarky question like that, you should ask a real question. And other than that, I'm going to go to somebody else.
Other than that, I'm going to go to somebody else. You hurt my feelings. How could you dare ask me these kinds of questions? I mean, this is a president that went out and tell everybody not to worry about coronavirus because it's really no big deal, and we don't want to go ahead and really really worry about it, and that's what the president said. But you know how it goes with the president. It turns out that what he wants there at his presser is not any serious questions. What he wants is a cult. And in talking about wanting a cult, I want to show you exactly what he wants out of people. Check this out.
Now I wrote something off the cuff, if I can read this. Okay. God gave us grace on November 8, 2016 to change the course we were on. God had been taken out of our schools and lives. A nation had turned its back on God. And I encourage you to use this time at home to get back in the Word, read our Bibles, and spend time with our families. Our president gave us so much hope where just a few short months ago, we had the best economy, the lowest unemployment, and wages going up. It was amazing. With our great president, vice president, and this administration, and all the great people in this country praying daily, we will get through this and get back to a place that's stronger and safer than ever.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Please come on up. I did not know he was going to do that, but he's a friend of mine, and I do appreciate it. Thank you, Mike, very much.
Sure, he didn't know that he was going to say that, and sure, he's going to have... And yeah, Michael Rodnett, I don't know what happened to separation of church and state, but that was, if there was some sort of violation, you would think that something like that is just that. But anyhow, today what we're going to be talking about, folks, is we're going to be talking about Medicare for all and why more than ever those of us, again, and I don't want you, and some people are going to say, God, why are we going to be back on Medicare for all again? I want to make your day. I want to tell you this coronavirus is a bad thing. It's going to kill a whole lot of our brothers and sisters. But you know what is important? Let's not let them have died in vain, because now it's the time that we can go ahead and show them that it isn't the private sector that's their friend. Now it's the time that we can show them that what they need is exactly what they've started to get. Just notice how quickly Congress and all these folks were able to, when they found out that the market was about to collapse, when they found out that the entire economy was going to collapse, they realized that the real folks who run our economy, it's you. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They have to try now to pump up the economy. They have to try now to do something that is going to be important. And Trump understands that. And one of the reasons we know he understands that is in his pressers. If you're going to listen to a whole lot of what he has to say, you're going to hear him use these words a whole lot. Private sector. Private sector. The private sector is coming to do this. The private sector is coming to do that. I want you to check this out. This is an important piece here that I'm going to put out there. Check him out.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership in marshaling all the resources that we have for this unprecedented testing effort. And working with our testing coordinator, Admiral Giroir, they have now truly unleashed the ingenuity of the private sector and our state and local leaders, the centerpieces of America's historic approach to testing.
I'm also incredibly appreciative of private industry's ingenuity and willingness to work with us quickly to develop and distribute those tests. Just like to emphasize one thing, the most innovative and safe products come from the private sector.
The pharmaceutical company, Sandoz, has been working with us very closely. And as Alex mentioned, 30 million doses of the hydroxychloroquine to the United States government. And Bayer has donated 1 million doses. Teva Pharmaceutical is also donating 6 million doses. So the private sector, as you'd say, Steve, it's been amazing what's happened. Really amazing. And we're going to introduce you to some of the greatest business executives in the world today. And I don't know if you just saw, it just came over the wires that Ford just announced that they will produce, along with General Electric Healthcare, 50,000 ventilators, and they're going to be doing it in less than 100 days. And top of that, we have other companies that are doing ventilators, including General Motors, but we have 9 other companies doing ventilators. The fact that we're doing so many so quickly is a tribute to our great companies. Joining us this afternoon are CEOs of the great American companies that are fulfilling their patriotic duty by producing or donating medical equipment to help meet our most urgent needs. What they're doing is incredible.
I'm Egberto Willies. Yeah, what they're doing is incredible. What they're doing is incredible. Notice what they're doing here. The idea is Americans are continuously getting the shock of their lives, right? And now what are they going to start to turn to? They're going to start to turn to the security of we the people. They're going to start to turn to the folks that they don't think are going to take them for granted. They're about to turn to, yes, the government, not for handouts, but to say, wait a minute, those people who constantly claim to be in charge, they're in charge of nothing. Their only interest is to fill up the pockets of the shareholders and the executives, etc. That's what it's all about right now, right? So what you find happening right now is you find all the words that are coming out of the administration, all the words that are coming out of its people. It's the private sector is doing this. The private sector is donating. The private sector's, well, you know what? You read the New York Times article. I haven't read it yet. I probably should be looking it up. And it seems to me like the New York Times article is saying that the bills are coming due. So, I mean, I think I'm going to look it up as I speak here. But I think what we have to start looking at is exactly how we handle this going forward. I said earlier, one of the things we have to do is first, a lot of people say, this is not the time for us to be throwing blame out or whatever. I'm saying Americans' attention span is very, very short. And it's not their fault, right? It's not our fault. We have to work so hard. I mean, we're out early in the mornings, we're home late, we have kids to take care of, mother and father has to work, and even sometimes the kids have to go out there and work. So nobody has time for immediate deep thinking. We need to. Our productivity is high enough that we could have more leisurely time. But we are slaves to the corporations, and that's the reason why we don't have this leisurely time, right? That is the reason why. So, what do we do about that? What exactly do we do about that? Before we get there, though, what I want to play for you is I want to play for you Trump, or rather, how should I say this? I think I want to play the big problem that is occurring in the country with how the coronavirus is currently handled under this particular system. Check this out. Here, I want to play this for you. Last night, Rachel Maddow played a CBS acquired tape that showed the cognitive dissonance of the president, who, after being told some issues, it was as if he simply just lived on a different plane. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
This is audio from a conference call that was held between the White House and the nation's governors. The first voice you're going to hear is Dr. Tony Fauci, the infectious disease expert. Then you're going to hear Montana Democratic Governor Steve Bullock saying that without a federal effort to secure the medical supply lines, including test kits, states like his aren't able to get this stuff themselves. You'll hear Governor Bullock express the need to nationalize the medical supply chains. And then in response, at the end of this tape, you will hear the president, incredibly, saying, this is a problem? I don't think this is a problem.
Do you have any system in place that you feel can adequately identify cases and isolate them and contact trace them, or the capabilities and resources there that's not something that you can do given with what you have?
Yes, Dr. Fauci, we are trying to do contact tracing, but literally we are one day away if we don't get test kits from the CDC that we wouldn't be able to be tested in Montana. We have gone time and time again to the private side of this, the private market, and where the private market is telling us is that it's the national resources that are then taking our orders apart. Basically, so we're getting our orders canceled. That's for PPE, testing supplies, that's for testing equipment. So while we're trying to do all the contact tracing, we don't have adequate tests to necessarily do it. We don't have the PPE along the way, and we're not finding markets to be able to do that along the way, or private suppliers. So we do have to rely on a national chain of distribution, or we're not going to get it. But we're doing our best to try to do exactly that. In, like, it's Gallatin County would be an example where we have almost half of our overall states, those are the positives. So we're trying to shift the supplies to really isolate that and do the contact tracing, but we just don't have enough supplies to do the testing.
Tony, you can answer it if you want, but I haven't heard about testing in weeks. We've tested more now than any nation in the world. We've got these great tests, and we come out with another one tomorrow where it's, almost instantaneous testing. But I haven't heard about testing being a problem.
I haven't heard about testing being a problem, the president says. You just heard about testing being a problem. That's what you're responding to. Testing kits are among the critical medical supplies that governors around the country cannot source on their own to cobble together a 50-part symphonic response to what is the worst national crisis on the globe when it comes to this virus. 50 governors doing their best, trying to cobble together access to testing, access to masks, access to gloves, access to ventilators. 50 governors trying to do it, and the president saying, I haven't heard this is a problem. I'll back you up if you need it. Make sure you say nice things about me. Status of the national response to this crisis right now. We have the biggest and worst coronavirus epidemic in the world, and it is slated to get way worse than it is right now. They want to call this the Chinese virus. China had half the number of cases that we've already got. And you see the way all of our curves are going right now. In 50 states, in all of our biggest cities, and lots of places that aren't big cities at all. Our national response to this crisis has been this kind of useless. There is no nationalization of critical medical supplies. There's a lot of happy talk about how much we have, and then you hear from the nurses and the doctors and the people in the front lines who are actually seeing patients saying, we don't have it. We're being told to use the same mask every day. This is the kind of useless national response that is going to result in the deaths of thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans. But this is the federal government that we've got. And so we look elsewhere.
Rachel Maddow said it, Nancy Pelosi said it. Our response to the coronavirus by this administration has caused the deaths of many Americans. And this is something we have to start inculcating into the minds of Americans. This president is a clear and present danger. He's causing the lives of people, and the actions by this administration, not only from profiteering off of the coronavirus by giving contracts to friends, etc. This is going to be a danger to everybody going forward, and we better acknowledge it and stop believing the daily happy talks that you see from this president at what aren't press conferences. As a friend of mine, ETC Politics, said, it is nothing more than campaign rallies. Okay, folks, so I hope you get that. I hope you get that exactly what we're talking about. What Rachel is saying is, oh, look, we're living in two different universes. The happy talk from the president, and then the reality of what the governors are going through. And there are two reasons that the president's doing that, right? Once, if something goes wrong in New York, he doesn't want to be able to say, he doesn't want folks to be able to say, oh, the federal government didn't perform. He just wants to say that was a job of the governor. We were just there in support. But at the same time that he wants to say that, he's not there supporting the governors. Folks, note this is a call-in show, 646-716-5812. I have enough time today to take calls, 646-716-5812. Please feel free. Give us a call, 646-716-5812. Of course, I'm also monitoring whatever text you're sending me over YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, or, of course, Facebook. Anyhow, so we have to get to the point now. We can't wait till it's upon us. We can't wait till Nancy Pelosi is done writing the bill or whatever. We have to start the drive again for Medicare for All. A lot of people think that, okay, it seems like Bernie Sanders is not going to be the standard bearer for the Democratic Party, so therefore we need to forget about Medicare for All because it's just not going to happen. No. If you if you looked at Bernie Sanders as from a cultish point of view, then if and when Bernie is out of the race, you throw your marbles up and you go away. Personally, even as a former national Bernie delegate in Pennsylvania, in Philly, I never consider myself some sort of a cult person. The idea is we want policy that works. We want a policy that supports all Americans, and that we know Medicare for all. Coronavirus is giving us a perfect reason. I mean, whereas at any given time there are not a lot of Americans that are in, that needs health care. Granted, they may go for a cold that's covered. They may go for, or they get a copay or whatever. But generally speaking, most Americans, there's not a whole lot that's wrong with them, right? But if you're talking about half of New York getting the pandemic, getting the COVID-19, if 20 to 40% of the country is going to get this disease, and they're going to go to the hospitals, we are starting to look at what's going to be the biggest transfer of wealth in all times to the health industrial complex. Because what's going to happen is they are going to milk everything out of you. The medical industrial complex is going to milk everything out of you, because the pandemic isn't going to be, okay, we turn it off in April, or we turn it off in May, or we turn it off in June. It's going to be ongoing. And that means that people who normally would not have gotten sick will get sick. And with this sort of disease, you're going to have chest x-rays, you may have ventilators, you may have all these particular issues that's going to come out. So I really need Americans to understand that this stuff does not end in April. This stuff does not end in June. This stuff does not end in September. This is going to be ongoing. And in ongoing, it means a large percentage of Americans will be faced with going to the hospital for expensive tests, for expensive stays, for expensive procedures, just on the coronavirus, nothing else. That doesn't count all the other health care issues you may have. So we are now talking about whether we are going to continue to allow the pilfer by the health industrial complex. And I am saying, no, let's have some foresight. All of you that are listening to me right now, first of all, I'd like to ask you to share. Please share these programs like right now. Before you do anything else, I beg, I implore, please share these programs right now. And then after you share the program, we'll continue, we continue talking. Again, this is a call-in show. If somebody wants to add something to what I'm saying for everybody else to hear, just call 646-716-5812. If you're listening to this on the podcast, just remember you can always send me email to info@politicsdoneright.com. Again, that is info@politicsdoneright.com. Now, I want to show you the old school on Medicare for all. The old school. And that is the standard bearer for the Democratic Party. Old school. Why do I want to show you this? Because the ineptitude with which our standard bearer answered the question about single-payer Medicare for all is something, especially because by November, a lot of Americans would have seen their bills. If a lot of Americans, including those in Appalachia, including Trump supporters, I almost guarantee you Trump is going to have an answer to pay those people's bills. It's going to sound something like Medicare for all. It's going to pay their bills. And we're going to have all the out clips from Biden's, if he's the standard bearer like we think he looks like he's going to be thus far. He's going to be sounding completely out of touch with the reality. The one thing Trump has is no character. Trump can say one thing today and say something tomorrow, and it has no impact on him. But Joe Biden comes back and he's definitely Medicare for all is not going to solve it. All Trump has to do when election time come around, it says, yeah, well, I see the light, Medicare for all. And he doesn't care because he knows he's not going to fulfill it. But he doesn't mind outright lying. Biden is trying to play the honest role. Okay, no, Medicare for all is not the answer. Then today I had to tweet a particular congressman because he goes on and he says, yes, we're going to have to do something about healthcare seriously, but it's not single payer. What the hell else is it going to be? Math prevails. It is impossible for a this is an absolute statement. And anybody who thinks they can refute what I'm saying, put the numbers on the screen and I guarantee I'll refute you. Come and call into the show and I'll be very gentle in talking to you as I always have with my callers. But it is impossible for a multi-payer for-profit insurance system to be less expensive than a single-payer system. And if people want to say, yes, but we're going to have choices, if you are willing to pay 30 to 40% more to get choices, then why not save the 30, 40% and purchase your choices? It makes no sense whatsoever. But let's listen to our standard bearer for now. Joe Biden is the likely Democratic nominee, and it is probably time that one starts to force him to take positions that he must take if he's going to make a difference and if he's going to earn the votes of those other candidates who necessarily have been fighting for Medicare for all. I want you to listen to his response for why he doesn't support Medicare for all, even though the coronavirus pandemic dictates that America starts moving in that direction, not slowly, but rapidly. Check this out.
Just last hour, we heard from former Vice President and 2020 Democratic contender Joe Biden. He joined my colleague Yasmin Zavasugian and defended his opposition to a single-payer health care system in light of the coronavirus pandemic.
The thing that is needed is, for example, we have a whole number of hospitals that are being so stretched, including rural hospitals, they're going to need more financing. That doesn't come from a single payer system. That comes from the federal government stepping up and dealing with the concerns that they have, the reimbursement that they're going to get, how they're going to be able to move forward, and how they're going to be able to provide all the needed help that are needed in their communities. This is an opportunity to look at reconstructing the healthcare system in a way that in fact can respond more rapidly and more effectively to these kinds of crises, because it's going to come again.
First of all, after watching that and watching the way he intonates, etc., I am sorry, but as a standard bearer for the Democratic Party, we are in trouble. Now, let's get on to substance, however. Cognitive dissonance. He, in effect, just said what we need is single payer. We need the government, the single payer, to come in and make all these stressed hospitals whole, a single payer. Because you know what? Suddenly, the independent insurance companies together are not making these hospitals whole. Of course not. They got to make a profit. The reality is this. It would be a dereliction of all of our duty, the people who support Medicare for all, to not start the process of forcing Mr. Biden to change to where America's position is. Had we had Medicare for all, there wouldn't have been people scared to go into the hospital to get an early diagnosis. Without a test or not, they would have been able to say quarantine because this is not your standard flu. Had we had Medicare for all, people would not have had to worry about those who have paid $3,000 or so for a test. The fact of the matter is simple. It is time to change our healthcare system. Coronavirus has proven that. And if we again allow ourselves to be snowed by the plutocracy, by the corporatocracy, who continue to extract, who continue to pilfer us for medical care, right now they are bidding up with the help of Donald Trump. States are bidding against each other for equipment, for supplies, raising their prices. The capitalist system is not functional within healthcare. It is not. The capitalist system is good to make radios, cars, and these other things that we can live without on an independent basis. For healthcare, the capitalist system does not work because once you start profiteering on health delivery, once you start capitalizing on health needs, it is actually saying that you're causing the deaths of people. In Texas, we're causing the deaths of people. With our national policy on healthcare, we have killed a lot of people. Let's make that clear. You support anything other than universal health care via a single payer Medicare for all type system, you are sanctioning the deaths of your families, your friends, and otherwise. There aren't two ways about it. It is one answer. The one answer, it's a mathematical certainty that the only way to do this is to take the profit motive out of healthcare delivery. No one should ever have to think about how much is this going to cost me before I get health care. No one should. The only reason we do that in this country is so that a very minor few can make a whole lot of money on your health and likely your death. Yeah, okay, folks. I mean, and that is, again, that is a mathematical certainty. And it is something that we need people to point out more. And I want somebody, math is absolute, okay? Remember, I want everybody to understand this. Whenever you're talking, and you're going to have some people in the room that are going to try to call out the VA and all these kinds of things. It makes no sense, right? Because if you have a single payer whose only bill, whose only outlay is to pay for administration, to pay and to pay the bill that the cost of your service and your medicine, if that is the only cost, we have to remember then that the private insurance then has additional costs. They have to pay that as well. They have to pay everything the single payer has to pay, but they also have to pay executives. They also have to pay duplicative services. They also have to pay the shareholders who invest in the insurance companies. They also have to have, because it's many insurance companies, the doctor's offices cost more. Why? They now have to hire extra personnel to talk to all these different insurance companies. It's math. It is math. Now, if the people who support private health insurance will be honest and say, yes, it costs more, but it's what we want because we want to give away our money. If that's the case, say that. But don't try to tell Americans, don't lie to Americans and give them the implication that Americans love their private. They're satisfied with their private health insurance. They're so satisfied with the private sector. Why are they satisfied with donating their money to the yachts, to the skyscrapers of a few, while they pay more, while it comes out of the monies that they could have otherwise paid to send their kids to college, that it could have otherwise be paid for a vacation somewhere? Don't be fooled. The constancy of the lies, the constancy of the misinformation, the constancy of asking you to deny math, the constancy of asking you to be dumb, the constancy of asking you, please, 1 + 1 really is not equal to 2. It's really equal to 1.5. I mean, folks, it is simple. It's ideological. But the ideological failure to see that having a single payer, whether it is the government or a nonprofit entity, one place from whence the bill comes, with everybody in one database, with there not having to be buildings and tons of employees to talk to your healthcare system. It makes more sense. It is logical, it is perfect, and it is the only solution to the problem. And now is the time for us to push it. Why is it the time for us to push it now? Because a lot of people are going to get their coronavirus bills. And when they get their coronavirus bills and continue to see that our health industrial complex is comprised of vultures, then they can say, let's go with civility. Let's go with the way things really, really need to be. So anyhow, I want to close out my video sequences with a neoliberal governor who has discovered in his narrative that single payer Medicare for all is really the way to go. He won't ever say that. He talks around it, he gets around it, but in effect, he is going to coalesce onto everything that Medicare for All has to offer without saying it. And the thing about it is, I don't know how these people are going to do it going forward, because they're owned by the insurance industry, they're owned by the medical industrial complex. I don't know how the transition is going to occur. It's going to occur by you going out there on the streets. It's going to occur, well, we can't go on the streets right now because, the coronavirus doesn't allow that. But what it does allow is for us to do more study, more thinking, and more communicating. So it's for us to start letting these politicians know that we're coming for them. We're coming for them. Check this out with Andrew Cuomo.
We have ordered 17,000 from China.
Ventilators?
Yes.
So
That we would pay for, roughly $25,000 each. By the way, anyone who says, oh, maybe you don't need that many ventilators. You're saying 30,000 ventilators. You don't need that many. You don't really believe you need that many. You know how you know I really, really believe that number? Because we are paying $25,000 per ventilator, and we are broke. And the last thing I want to do is buy a single ventilator that I don't need. The complexity with ventilators is we ordered 17,000 from China. So did California, so did Illinois, so did the federal government, so did Italy. Anyone could have told you a lot of these things, right? The situation I just explained with purchasing. Did you really have to learn that 50 states shouldn't compete against 50 states, and then FEMA shouldn't come in late and then compete with 50 states? It's not like you had to go to the Harvard Kennedy School to learn this, right? Should you really have a hospital system in New York State where you have private hospitals, you have these struggling public hospitals, there's two separate systems, the upstate is separate, Long Island is separate. Shouldn't you have planned a comprehensive system? Yes, but the commercial barriers to that, the political barriers to that, were so intense that if you didn't have a disaster, an emergency, you couldn't break through them. Conversation I had with these hospital leaders yesterday in that room, if it was not for the coronavirus, I would have never made it out of that room. I mean, what I was saying was so antithetical to the foundation of the business of healthcare in this state, which, by the way, is a multi-billion-dollar business. It's right, it was common sense, but sometimes you need the emergency to force change that would be very, very difficult otherwise. It is almost impossible to buy a ventilator. To the extent anyone is successful in buying ventilators, FEMA basically came in and is now capturing the market because the ventilators are coming out of China, and FEMA basically bigfooted the states in China. So to the extent anyone is buying it, it's FEMA. And that's why the federal distribution is going to be so important, because they are the only ones. I can't buy a ventilator. I can't buy a ventilator. Whatever we're willing to pay, I can't buy a ventilator. So it really comes down to how the federal government distributes it. And that's why it's so important.
Okay, that was an important statement that he made. And let me show you all the ways that this guy supported single payer. He complains about the hospital systems, between the private and public hospital systems, the different systems, and how inefficient it is that upstate New York has a particular set of rules, downstate New York has different kind of rules, how problematic that is. Medicare for All solves that. He then talks about the bidding process. New York wants ventilators. All these other companies want ventilators. All these other states want ventilators. But The federal government also want ventilators so it can help those states that can't bid, like New York and California and Washington, right? So now we have all these different companies bidding for these ventilators. And what happens then? What happens then is the prices of the ventilators skyrocket because we are in the capitalist system. And if you're in the capitalist system with a whole lot of buyers bidding for the same thing, the prices go up. And if the prices go up, and CSEC, this is where we're going to talk about that inflation you talk about. The prices go up. So what do? What you do is you say, we have one person that is willing to buy those products. And what you do then is by having one person buy the product, you have no competition, which you shouldn't have in healthcare. And the price goes down close to production cost, just above production costs. And that is what you purchase these ventilators at. If the federal government did its job, single payer, bought all the ventilators, and then dispersed it. You have to understand why the private sector, why the corporate vultures don't want single payer. Because at that point, they no longer have pricing power. The capitalist system says the following. There is competition, which is a good thing, but here's where it fails in healthcare. It fails in healthcare where it says this. What is the price of your product? The price of your product is whatever the market will bear. And what can the market bear? The market can bear whatever liquid assets you have plus whatever credit you are able to attain. In other words, if it's a product that you must have, the market, whatever the market will bear is everything all the money I can get, meaning all the credit I can have, all the earnings I can get, as well as whatever I can steal. That is what the market will bear, and that is what capitalism does in the healthcare industry. If the federal government decided, I am going to go buy all the ventilators, and you're going to give me that price or you sell none. And by the way, we do have laws that if you decide not to sell something that is critical for the country, we will simply force you to sell it and give you the best market rate we can. So there are outs for all ways to do it. Why then isn't Donald Trump doing that? Because his friends will make less money. And they have decided to use the coronavirus to milk you for whatever you are worth. They're not doing you any favors by keeping it into the private sector. They're stealing your money. That's what they're doing. They're taking your money and giving it to friends. Because a ventilator, look, before I became a full-time political activist, okay, I wrote software. I designed software. Hell, some of my software is in the test equipment for Boeing. Okay? So what I'm trying to tell you, I know the cost of these things. Not only that, the multi-port card, I'm sorry I didn't have it on the desk, that I designed was built in Taiwan. Okay? I know what things cost over there. And the thing of the matter is, they don't cost much. A ventilator does not cost $25,000 at all. The ventilator probably costs, in parts and all of that, under $500. Okay? But they can sell it for $25,000 because that is what the market will bear. If we were to get sensible and get rid of capitalism in healthcare, then people say, oh, but what will happen to innovation? I ask you guys a big question right now. All the calculations that were made to really find the genome of the virus, was that designed by the private sector or was that designed in public money in universities? Guess what? The initial studies for all those kinds of designs were paid for by you, the taxpayer, in universities who determine how to break the genome and all of that. That wasn't done by private sector. They don't take risks. They don't take risk unless they believe it's going to pay. So they wait till the universities come to close to a conclusion, then they take it, turn it into a profit, or rather turn it into a product, and then sock it to you, and the investor, the taxpayer, get nothing for it. But you know what? Most Americans don't know the history. They don't know the genesis of the medicines that they pay an inordinate amount of money for. They don't know that. That's why we are here. That's why I constantly ask you to share these programs so that we can tell people you are being ripped off. That drug that they said was so expensive to develop, research and development, most of the research and development was likely done at a university. That product that they said, look at insulin. There's nothing fundamentally changed in insulin other than the delivery methods. And for that, they are charging you thousands of dollars a year for insulin, something that costs less than $1. You know why they can do that? That is what the market can bear. Folks, if you don't call now, I'll go ahead and start answering the questions. Our telephone number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. And what I'll do is I'll go now to the questions. Okay, Michael Rudnin says, the coronavirus testing was supposed to be free. Our nation is going to be the worst hit of any country. And the reason why, Senor Rudnin, it's because we don't have Medicare for all. If we had Medicare for all, that would not be the case, because people would not be scared to go to the doctor. People would not be scared for that bill that's coming. Michael Rudnin said, whatever happened to separation of church? Oh, that was for the thing that I did. Propaganda Fest from Lenny Hall. You're right about that, Lenny. That was a video that I showed with the media. Rudnin said an analysis by researchers at the Imperial College in London projected that 2.2 million Americans could die from the coronavirus without suppression efforts like the ones adopted by states and encouraged by federal government with restrictions. Absolutely so. Daniel Cohen says, let's see, viruses don't kill. The truth is they clean the toxins out of your systems. That is possible. A person was a weak immune system, elderly with illness, virus, but it does not treat. I am not sure what you're saying there, Daniel. Praying never left the classroom because it was conducted overwhelmingly each test day. But you know what? It's so funny. The truth of the matter is, I don't care if somebody want to pray in school, right? As long as you don't infringe on somebody else who doesn't want to pray or somebody who prayed to something other than Christianity, I don't have a problem. Michael Rudnin says, hydroxychloroquine plus Z-Pack combo. If this works, great. But the study that suggested it works was limited to 30 participants. From everything that I've heard, I don't particularly think it really works. I think there are people that would have gotten well anyway. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember, share these programs. That is how we are going to get the truth across the entire country. I tell folks, there are a couple of other shows that do this as well, and there are some that are very, very entertaining because they have fun or whatever. I may have to add a little bit of fun to make us a little bit more entertaining and less 100% serious. I have to figure something to do that, because a lot of folks it's like, get overwhelmed as we continue to talk about these issues. And I want to draw people in, not only from the technical stuff, but we put a little bit of fun in there sometime. I've been looking at some other shows that have better penetration than my show, and I see that is what some people are doing. But what I don't ever want to do is lose what we're doing, and that is trying to give as much information to people as possible. If you got ideas, I'm all ears for whatever ideas you guys have, things that you'd like to see on the show, anything that you'd like to see differently. It is your show. We have to remind you of that all of the time. This is your show. Okay, Rudnin says, the initial offering of $500 billion corporate bailout is most likely going to balloon to $4.5 trillion. Yeah, it's called leverage. It's called leverage. Absolutely so, Mr. Rudnin. Mike Cisak, the problem is with the media that keeps lying, not Trump. That is true. The media does lie a lot. A lot of times I think they do it because, money talks. Dirty Donald he was going to replace Obamacare, and now he's saying wait until 2021. Yeah, because people are going to. But, it doesn't really matter. Obamacare right now is in such dire straits. People are on Obamacare and they're still going bankrupt. And the reason why is exactly what we said. Obamacare didn't compete with. Look, we don't have to get rid of private insurance at all. We don't. I think that's Bernie's mistake, right, in saying get rid of private insurance. We just have to make the law in such a manner that the private insurance has to give at least what the public insurance is providing. And when they do that, they simply cannot compete because they have other prices. They have other bills. Their bills include shareholders, executives, duplicate services, and everything. A doctor is eventually not going to want to take private insurance. Why take private insurance when you just have to hire one person that does submit the bill to the government and the government pays, or whatever entity pays? Why not do it that way? It's much more efficient, right? And of course, people are going to talk about fraud. Yeah, we have the fraud department, just like we have the police department. Think about this. Everybody pays their taxes. You don't see a lot of private companies out there trying to collect the taxes, then giving it to the government. Now, you have the likes of TurboTax and all of that I would like to get rid of, because I don't see why you need a TurboTax and all these products to pay for. But again, you don't have to use the TurboTax. TurboTax is there to make it easier for you. If you want to file directly with the government, you can as well, right? Yeah. Okay, let's see. I want to get to Mike Cisak. Mike Cisak says, the VA costs a lot more than going to private health providers while being timely. And that is completely false. That is completely false. I have relatives that go to the VA. It is impossible what you've just stated. Lawrence Sims says maybe he is saying using just-in-time solutions we have in place, such as expanding Medicaid to cover more, rather than waiting for 2 to 4 years to implement Medicare for all. We don't have to wait 2 to 4 years if we don't want to. Think about this, Michael, Lawrence Sims. We were in a crisis right now, and look how quickly Nancy Pelosi went ahead and paid $4-point-something trillion. All we have to say right now, if we wanted to be honest, is this is a war. What we do immediately is we are going to insure any American who wants to have this insurance company held by the government. It's going to cost X amount of dollars. This is what it is. If the private insurance want to match it, fine. If they don't, and then you tell all the doctors, you have one telephone number to call and one place to send your bill. That's all they have to do. They can disregard the private sector altogether. They can just say, we are offering insurance right now to the public. And this is what it's going to cost. It's going to be 30% less than what anything else costs. Punto final. Punto final. The private insurance companies die immediately. That's it. And then people say, oh, but what about all the workers that are working for the insurance companies? We support them. Just like we're giving every American $1,200 right now. For those people who are going to lose their insurance because of what the government, or lose their job because of what the government did, they get a stipend for a year and a half or two as they show they're retraining for some new job or as they find a new job. That's all we do. That's all we do. And people say, oh, what about the shareholders that are going to lose their shirts? That's what's called investing. They can write it off. They can write off their losses. Oh, but what about those people who have their investments in the retirements? Again, write it off. It's not complicated. Okay, Mike Cisak says we don't have to have insurance for all of our healthcare needs. Only need it for emergency care that is rare. I'm sorry if that's how you feel. That may be you, but most people, and that's, Brother Cisak, that is one of the things that I call not having the necessary empathy, right? You can afford your nicks and knacks, but there are so many people. My daughter saw so many people in Appalachia. So many people as she traveled Ohio and Appalachia. They don't even have that, Mr. Cisak. Not even that do they have. They need insurance. They need health care is what I should say. They need health care. Please, folks, if you're just joining us, remember to share. Okay, Michael Rudnin says, let's see. People don't like insurance companies. They like their doctors. Perfect. Cisak says, Egberto still refuses to answer my questions on how he would deal with Medicare for all inflation. Okay, when Rudnin asks about Medicare for all insurance, here's what he's asking. When he talks about Medicare, he's talking about, well, if we have Medicare for all, everybody's going to have insurance. Everybody's going to go to the doctor. To which I said, yeah, more power. And then he said, and that's going to cause the health insurance prices to go up, rather, the doctor prices to go up because of supply and demand. Did we not talk about keeping keeping control on? First of all, that's not true. Because we're not going to allow the pharmaceutical companies to charge whatever they will because they're selling more drugs. Hell no. Doctors will have rates that they can charge, and if they have good outcomes, things look good. So I mean, what I'm saying is, all this stuff about medical inflation makes no sense, because what you're actually saying is, I want people to die if they cannot afford to pay health insurance. That's the only way that makes sense. Okay, Michael Francis Lopez says, replying to Mike, he says, so you think inflation factor is not in the present system? It's a silly argument just because we have with which to compare, right? We can compare our system with France. We can compare our system with Australia. We can compare our system with Taiwan, which Taiwan's system right now is going through a few issues because a lot of Taiwanese go to the doctor about 12 or more times per year. They really use the healthcare out there. But I mean, there are ways to control that. Okay, Elaine McDonald says the federal government is killing us. The current one, you're right, it's killing us. Michael Rudnin says single payer saves $450 to $500 billion, if not more, Mr. Rudnin. CSEC says we have a partial single payer between Medicare and government-regulated insurance. Only 2 other countries have an actual single payer, UK and Canada. They restrict. I don't even want to hear that, because even if we talk about restricting, the fact that we pay so much more means that we would restrict that much less. Let's see now. Rudnin says not getting rid of private insurance. Have private insurance compete against government services. That's a public option. You know what, Rudnin, they can't compete. Math is absolute. I see what you're saying there, but I am not saying. Notice what I said earlier. All the government has to say is we're offering insurance. Now, I don't care what the private sector want to do. We're offering health insurance, and our health insurance is at the cost of what the service costs. Private health insurance can't beat that. If they want to try, they can try, but it's a futile attempt because math reigns. Math reigns. Egberto, after the show, I hope you watch Common Dreams. Let's see, Watch TV. Comedian John Oliver makes case for Medicare for all. I think if that is the same one that he done a few months ago, I've seen that one, but I'll take a look. Thank you, Rudnin. Government health care is 30% less than private. We know that. Yes, thank you very much for pointing that out. Louis Shockley, in Newark, New Jersey, too many of y'all drinking that Jim Jones Kool-Aid. Some of these fools think it's okay to stop people from going from Newark to shop for food. Where is the martial law order from Governor Murphy? First take free speech. I think I understand what you're saying there, my friend. But anyhow, we're close to the end of the show. I got to really say, folks, thank you so kindly for listening. But before I go, I have to remind you that please, 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 I need your support. Politics Done Right need your support. This is a private, or what should I say? This is a public show. You are the owner of the show. I want to ask you to consider becoming contributors to the show, and also subscribers to the show. What we'd love for you to do is subscribe to the show. It's a very easy subscription process. You just need to go to our subscriber to become a Patreon, and I'm putting it in there right now. It is Patreon. Oops, it said something went wrong. Let's see if I can put that in there again. Something went wrong. It does not allow me to do it without reloading, so it looks like I have to reload the page. Anyhow, folks, I'm reloading the page. And here is what I'd like to tell you. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright to become a subscriber. Again, I'm going to put it right in here. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright. patreon.com/politicsdoneright. To contribute to the show, you can go to paypal.me. That's paypal.me/politicsdoneright. That is paypal.me/politicsdoneright. And of course, visit our store, store.politicsdoneright.com. store.politicsdoneright.com. Look, I cherish your eyeballs. I cherish your ears. I thank you so kindly for being a part. Please share the program widely. That is how we are going to make a difference. I ask you so kindly once again, please subscribe. And you know how I end this, baby. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.